From around 15 years of age, I was racked with depression. It impacted me socially and mentally in very negative ways. I went from a kid who had hope in the future to a kid who wanted to die at times. And I had it easy. There are some people who can't even bring themselves to get out of bed, it's so crippling. I never used drugs to treat it. I thought that was terrible. Over the years, therapy helped me view my world and life differently, to the point that I could cope. I still had a day or two a month where I would just be depressed for no reason. Many people don't understand depression. You don't have to have a reason to feel depressed. Your life could be going just fine, and you could still be crushed by crippling depression. It's a brain sickness, similar to any other sickness, that we are just now learning about in enough detail to better understand and treat without just throwing drugs at people and seeing what sticks. Today I will be discussing 4 causes of depression, and natural ways to treat 3 of them, and how when I feel depression coming on, knowing this helps me out a lot. The first reason we're discovering is actually caused by nutrient use and dispersal. A new study found that they can detect a person who has bipolar disorder just using their stem cells. They'll get some stem cells from their blood, then run an assay with different hormones and differentiate them into various kinds of brain cells. It turns out that people with bipolar disorder have certain types of brain cells with genes that essentially overclock them and will burn glucose super fast and deplete all the glucose nearby, making other cells around it that should also be getting glucose turn off. Depression is often the sensation you get that, similar to flu-like symptoms, are telling your brain to stop and rest. In this case, stop thinking and rest so your brain can refuel. Sadly, the brain is also a tool that wants to think its way out of any situation, so it will hurt the process further while trying to fix itself and figure out why it's depressed, just like if you had the flu and tried to get up and go dance around to get rid of your flu. You can be trapped for months in crippling depression because you're trying to think your way out of it, when the real answer is stop thinking. Just doing anything takes a tremendous amount of willpower you just don't have. You need to give your brain a rest. The best way to treat this kind of depression is mindful meditation and fatty fish like sardines. One will shut your brain up and let it rest, and the other gives your brain a nice shot of energy super quickly. I have videos below from my Training Your Inner Beast series that will get you started using the science of mindful meditation. The second is caused by brain inflammation. It turns out that if your brain has inflammation problems, it can block food transport due to pinched channels. Many psychologists are beginning to try treating this problem with anti-inflammatory drugs before they move into the heavier drugs for depression. Turmeric is one of the few herbs I use that has been scientifically tested within an inch of its life and is a known anti-inflammatory agent, along with being good at preventing Alzheimer's and, surprise surprise, depression. In a study with people with depression, turmeric gave the same results as Prozac. Mind you, that did not mean that the Prozac is bad. It means that some just didn't have depression caused by what Prozac was treating. The field of psychology is slowly beginning to try and filter these people out before prescribing people who actually need them real drugs. Thirdly, the reason is chemical imbalance in the brain, and the brain is so freaking complex, there are many pathways and channels that could be causing the depression. One that helps me that used to be used back in the 70s is tryptophan. An alternative to tryptophan is 5-HTP depending on your genetics, and you may uptake one better than the other. They're both in the same chemical pathway to become serotonin, but not everyone is helped by both. 5-HTP does nothing for me, my girlfriend is the exact opposite. Prozac is another if these don't work for you. And lastly, the fourth reason is, we don't know. There are people who we literally have no idea why they have depression. The brain is complicated. Very complicated. There's a crack video below that goes into the way the psychiatric industry just prescribes drugs to see what sticks, just out of habit. If the person is better in 6 weeks, they assume it was just the drugs. If not, they switch them on to something else. It's very possible that apparently everyone will go through a period of natural depression in their life, just like everyone will get the flu, then get over it naturally, whether they took the drugs or not, in usually a period of 6 weeks. The psychiatric industry is changing slowly in their approach. For me, if I'm feeling depression coming on, I pop a tryptophan and a turmeric, and if I'm really doing bad, I'll crank open a can of sardines and have a bit of meditation, and I can shake it off in about an hour or two. I know I'm very lucky. This works for me. Not everyone is so lucky and will need synthetic chemicals to make their brains function properly. If you try these and they don't work, or if you have thoughts of suicide, seek professional help. They are treating your sick brain just like any other organ, but there is no stigma against a person with cancer or the flu. Of course, for the past 4 years, depression has been the least of my concerns and anxiety has been my enemy, which is becoming pretty normal, and anxiety is becoming even more prevalent than depression. I got to the point that I had to take a drug for it as needed called hydroxyzine. That is just a low-level antihistamine that, as far as I can tell, just allows me to feel the sensation that I can actually breathe again. It turns out I realize I'm pre-diabetic, but it wasn't caught since I'm not actually diabetic. Cutting sugar down to at best 10 grams or 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar in a sitting cut my anxiety down to near zero. My cold limbs and extremities stopped causing a feedback loop, making the anxiety even worse. It's been quite amazing and freeing. Of course, without that high level of sugar getting to my brain so much, my old friend depression has been making a resurgence, which got me thinking about this video. So when I'm having depression and I don't have my pills or fish on me, I will have a little bit of sugar, and that usually gets me through the rest of the day. Sadly, only 25% of all foods you eat goes to fuel to the brain, and sugar will quickly boost your brain power and reduce depression. 75% of that goes to your body and gets stored in fat. It's a balancing act. If none of these work for you, please seek help and get treatment. You probably have a pathway we don't understand, and will need to try various drugs to get the mix right. Until then, try these. Maybe you'll be as lucky as me and they will help. But for the love of Pete, never ever shame someone for needing synthetic drugs to fight depression or anxiety. You're just making it worse.